At exactly 6 a.m., guards initiated the morning inspection. Cell 27 was entirely empty. The electronic deadbolt was still engaged. The security camera staring at the door had never stopped recording. The physical parameters offered no exit. 3 feet of solid reinforced concrete made up the walls. The front gate consisted of 2-inch thick, unbroken steel bars. This 3D blueprint maps the architecture of Cell 27. There are no utility shafts or external windows. The physical barriers are backed by a digital layer. Microphones, camera feeds, and floor pressure sensors ensure 0 blind spots in the entire sector. Based on the architectural data and the digital logs, removing a human body from Cell 27 requires bypassing the laws of physics. So how do you escape a room that was never actually opened? 1 minute after the discovery, at 6:01 a.m., the facility initiated a maximum emergency lockdown. Tactical teams began a systematic sweep of the entire compound. A mandatory roll call was ordered to ensure every other inmate was accounted for. Outside, perimeter patrols swept the exterior lines. The razor wire fences were completely intact. None of the exterior motion alarms had been tripped during the night. Back inside Cell 27, investigators found the prisoner's standard-issue uniform and personal belongings. They were meticulously folded and stacked directly in the center of the mattress. The search data confirmed a highly disturbing reality. He didn't breach the fence. He didn't fight his way out. He simply evaporated from a sealed concrete box. Investigators abandoned speculation. They relied strictly on the physical evidence left behind to systematically eliminate the 3 most probable methods of escape. The first operational theory assumed manual excavation. The idea was that the prisoner spent months carving a hidden tunnel through the floor or walls of the cell. Ground-penetrating radar dismantled that theory immediately. This cross-section shows the cell floor construction, a thick concrete slab poured directly over a deep layer of solid, impenetrable bedrock. No tunnel existed. The second theory pointed to an inside job. Investigators hypothesized that night shift guards were bribed to manually unlock the heavy steel door. This timeline data chart maps out the electronic deadbolt's internal logs. The hard drive shows a solid, unalterable line. The lock status remained engaged and uninterrupted from 9 p.m. to exactly 6 a.m. No guard opened the door. The final operational theory suggested a sophisticated digital hack, looping security camera footage to mask a physical exit. Forensic timecode analysis ruled out tampering. The expanded chart tracks the camera's timestamps against the deadbolt data. The synchronization is perfect, with no looped artifacts. Traditional investigative logic completely collapsed. The forensic data proved that 0 physical barriers and 0 digital systems were compromised. What were investigators missing? With no structural breaches to analyze, the investigation team shifted their focus. They began cross-referencing the human timeline and witness reports from the night of the vanishing. They immediately hit a glaring contradiction. A patrolling guard submitted a sworn statement claiming he heard a distinct rhythmic tapping echoing from the cell block at 3 a.m., but the cell block is monitored by highly sensitive automated audio logs. For the exact window of 3 a.m., the digital readout registered absolute 0 decibel activity. The machine heard nothing. Then came the second physical anomaly. Crime scene photos documented the prisoner's evening meal tray sitting untouched, balanced precisely on the very edge of his metal desk. That tray's specific placement contradicts the physical mechanics of the mandatory 9 p.m. bed check. To complete the check, a heavily geared guard must open the door and squeeze past that specific desk. They cannot do so without knocking a tray on that edge to the floor. Deep within the prisoner's archival files, investigators located a heavily modified administrative document dated 3 months before the disappearance, containing a massive, unexplained date discrepancy. The physical realities inside the cell and the administrative records were telling 2 entirely incompatible stories. This was a highly premeditated operation, but how was it executed? From the second the guards opened the door at 6 a.m., the entire investigation was blinded by a single, fatal assumption. Every detective, guard, and forensic analyst was obsessing over the mechanics of how a human body bypassed a locked steel door from the inside. But the evidence pointed to a completely different reality. the prisoner didn't escape cell 27 in the middle of the night. He was never inside the cell when the deadbolt engaged at 9 p.m. This schematic timeline isolates a massive administrative blind spot. At 8:45 p.m., inmates transfer back from the recreation yard. For exactly 15 minutes, multiple inmate transit paths intersect in a chaotic, poorly monitored central corridor. During that chaos, the prisoner utilized the precisely weighted meal tray and bundles of heavy laundry to mimic the pressure distribution of a human body on the bed frame. Because the bed's legs sit directly on the floor pressure sensors, the system registered the correct total load for a sleeping occupant. To the cameras and sensors, the room was occupied. The perfect security system was not defeated by force. It wasn't dismantled by hackers. Its rigid, highly predictable rules were weaponized to hide an absence in plain sight. An impenetrable fortress of concrete walls and digital sensors is ultimately only as reliable as the human perception confirming what goes into it. The facility's absolute trust in its own flawless security architecture created the exact psychological blind spot required to pull off the crime. But discovering the mechanics of the illusion does not solve the reality of the escape. Because the prisoner walked away during the 8:45 transit chaos, he had a massive 9-hour head start before anyone even opened the door. Investigators finally know exactly how cell 27 was emptied, but they are no closer to answering the only question that matters now. Where is he?